You know the moment I'm talking about. You step into a meeting, a studio, a family gathering, and the air tilts ever so slightly. A side eye hangs in the corner like a damp curtain. A joke lands just off center with your name tucked inside it. Someone answers you without looking up. That's not an accident, that's a probe. Disrespect rarely arrives as a punch. It arrives as a pressure test. And most people fail the test in one of two predictable ways. They explode and donate their power to the room, or they shrink and rent the room, their silence. Both lose. The third path, the one that builds lasting respect and re-engineers the room, demands calm, strategic control. Machiavelli might call it command of appearances. Denzel would call it discipline. I call it owning your frame. Start with this ground rule. Disrespect is data. Treat it like a diagnostic readout, not a personal indictment. Who benefits if you lose composure? Who is signaling insecurity by peacocking? Which comment breaks a previously agreed standard? The second you shift from how dare they to what does this reveal, you change roles from target to tactician. Personally, I feel the fastest way to hemorrhage power is to perform offense on cue. The fastest way to gain it is to demonstrate that you are unfazed and still precise. Calm isn't passivity. Calm is a strategy that forces other people's tells into the open. Own the physiology first, because the body is the billboard of your authority. Shoulders down and back. Chin level, not tilted. Feet planted, weight even. Breathe low through the nose and speak on the exhale. Disrespect thrives on speed, on getting you to sprint emotionally. Authority lives in tempo. From my subjective opinion, the person who controls the cadence controls the room. You don't need baritone thunder. You need beats, those deliberate pauses that make everyone else breathe on your schedule. If they press fast, you go slow. If they escalate volume, you lower yours and sharpen your diction. Tempo is dominance without theatrics. Next, name the game, not the insult. Don't duel with the barb. Restore the rule. Someone talks over you? Hold. One speaker at a time, finish, then I'll go. A snide shot across the bow? Let's keep it on the work, not the person. Passive-aggressive scheduling? I'm available when the decision maker is present, otherwise, send it in writing. These are boundary sentences. Clean, repeatable, non-emotional. They don't argue content, they govern process. And process is where respect lives, because process creates predictability, and predictability is what groups trust when emotions run hot. Keep your leverage visible. Leverage isn't just title, it's reliability, receipts, and reputation. Make every interaction pay a tax to your standards. Recap agreements in writing, timestamp decisions. Deliver early once, then on time always. When your track record is excellence plus documentation, casual slights boomerang. The louder someone tries to diminish you, the smaller they look against your receipts. In any niche, the professional who compounds reliability becomes expensive to disrespect. Choose the terrain. You are not obligated to fight on their timeline, in their format, for their audience. Shift mediums, email beats, hallway ambush, shift rooms, bring a witness, loop a principal, shift clocks, asynchronous updates, beat frantic sparring, shift scope, agenda only. Terrain selection is not retreat, it's range. A single sentence can relocate the entire conflict. Great to discuss. Please send all questions in one thread. I'll reply with a consolidated answer by 3 p.m. The instant you move the interaction from vibe to verifiable, disrespect loses oxygen. Finally, escalate standards, not emotions. When the temperature rises, don't raise your voice, raise the requirement. We'll continue once we're back on the brief. I respond after the updated proposal arrives. We'll reschedule when all stakeholders are present. Standards are dry on purpose. Dry puts out fires. You aren't trying to win applause. You're trying to own outcomes. Let others chase spectacle, you set terms. Let them trend, you write the rules. Disrespect wants your reactivity because your reactivity is free labor for their narrative. Don't donate, regulate. Decide in advance what you respond to, how you respond, and when you walk away. You're not here to prove who you are, you're here to make who you are unavoidable. Before you counter anything, you need a diagnosis. Not all disrespect is equal, and not all of it deserves the same response. Think like a strategist, not a defendant. Machiavelli would ask, Who benefits if you lose composure? What incentives are being engineered in the room? Which witness matters most right now, the audience, the decision maker, or your future self reading the recap? Personally, I feel 80% of disrespect problems melt when you turn heat into data. The moment you label the pattern, you gain levers. Start with a simple taxonomy. The test, a boundary probe, interruptions, talking over you, harmless jokes, late deliverables with casual apologies. The test asks, can I move your line without paying a price? Treatment, neutral, immediate boundary sentences, and a visible process cue. One speaker at a time. Finish, then I'll go. We'll proceed when we're back on the agenda. Tests don't need passion, they need price tags. The tell, their insecurity leaking as swagger, name-dropping, condescension, peacocking in front of a new audience. It's not about you. You're simply the surface they flex against. Treatment, ignore the theater, lock on to outcomes. Let's keep it on the brief and numbers. If you feed a tell with attention, it becomes a test. If you starve it, it becomes background noise. The trap, bait engineered to make you overreact and thereby confirm a narrative. Public jabs, loaded questions, shifting deadlines, urgent demands without scope. Treatment, change the terrain format, timing, audience. Great to discuss, consolidate questions in one thread. I'll reply at 3 p.m. Traps die in writing and schedules. Now widen the lens. Disrespect isn't just what they say, it's where and who. Audit channel hallway, ambush versus calendar invite. Audience spectators, hungry for spectacle versus stakeholders hungry for signal. And stakes, is this a reputational moment or a routine friction? Your response should scale with stakes, not with adrenaline. From my subjective opinion, the clumsiest errors happen when people scale to feelings instead of facts. Run the triage trio every time. 1. Breach. What exact standard got broken? Interruptions, scope creep, tone, lateness. 2. Benefit. Who gains if I become reactive? Status thief, rival niche, bored crowd. 3. Best next. What is the smallest enforceable step that restores the rule? A boundary sentence, a terrain shift, a recap. Institutionalize your diagnosis with a frame log. One notebook with 4 columns. Date divided by context, divided by behavior, divided by boundary. Used, divided by outcome. You'll spot patterns fast, same 2 behaviors, same 2 people, same 2 rooms. Patterns beat personalities because patterns can be pre-wired. For repeat offenders, pre-draft 2 lines. 1 on stage, we're off standard, 1 at a time. And 1 off stage, at 10:12, the standard broke. Repeat it, and we reschedule with the decision maker. Add signal hygiene to your environment, so disrespect has fewer footholds. Agendas sent 24 hours early, roles clarified, decisions time-stamped, Q&A captured in 1 thread. Chaos is the fertilizer of contempt. Clarity is the weed killer. If you must address tone, address mechanism first. I'm missing the owner and deadline in that. Ask, add both, and I'll move. When you force structure, you force respect, because people must slow down to meet your standard. Watch for covert variance. The smile that shortens your name. The compliment that cages. You're great for your level. The meeting that could have been an email but wasn't because performance needed an audience. Diagnosis here is recognizing status theater. You do not audition. You reframe. Let's move this to a decision doc. 2 options, trade-offs, and a recommendation. I'll circulate by EOD. That sentence replaces spectacle with scorekeeping. Finally, set your thresholds in advance. What gets a glance? What gets a boundary? What gets escalation? What gets exit? Pre-decided thresholds are armor. They prevent you from negotiating with adrenaline. Personally, I feel nothing builds self-respect faster than honoring your own escalation ladder. Dry, predictable, enforceable. You are not trying to win the moment, you are training the room. Diagnose first, then decide. When you map the disrespect, you stop playing their game and start running yours. Respect often gets decided before a single argument lands, long before facts, slides, or clever comebacks. It's decided in the first 10 seconds. in the way you enter, the way you hold your gaze, the way you claim time. Tempo is the invisible remote in every interaction, and whoever owns tempo owns interpretation. If they can rush you, they can frame you. If you can slow them, you can shape them. Personally, I feel more careers get derailed by borrowed tempo than by bad ideas. When we move at someone else's speed, we speak in someone else's story. Start with the entrance ritual. Pause at the threshold, one breath in, one beat out. Shoulders settle, chin level, eyes soft, not hard. You're not prowling, you're present. Set your tools like a conductor. Notebook open, pen ready, phone face down, agenda visible. Say the first sentence on the exhale and make it a frame sentence. Here's the outcome we're deciding today. Or we'll keep this anchored to the brief and the numbers. Do you hear it? No heat, all architecture. Frames tell the room what the movie is about before the plot gets messy. Then command cadence. Speak in clean packets, short sentences with air between them. Air is not emptiness. Air is authority. It gives your words weight and gives the audience time to metabolize your meaning. If they press faster, you slow. If they interrupt, you hold a palm gentle, not theatrical, and say one speaker at a time, finish and I'll go. You're not policing people, you're protecting comprehension. From my subjective opinion, composure is not quiet, it's contoured. Loud when it serves, silent when it sharpens, steady always. Own the turn-taking. Use time-bound bridges that keep the floor with you. 2 clarifying questions, then I'll propose options. 30 seconds on risk, then the recommendation. These micro-contracts domesticate chaos. They turn a noisy room into a sequence you can navigate. If someone tries the power overlap talking at you while you're mid-thought, don't chase their sentence. Finish yours, then label the process. I'll complete the point, then take yours. Labels reassert the frame without raising the temperature. Upgrade your questions. Weak questions chase opinions. Strong questions force structure. Which requirement is unmet? What trade-off are we accepting? What decision do you need from me by today? Questions like these slow the room to the speed of clarity. They move the conversation from vibe to verifiable, from posture to proof. In any niche, people respect the operator who can make a foggy meeting produce a crisp decision with owners and timestamps attached. Mind the visual rhythm. Your posture is punctuation. Lean in for emphasis, not for approval. Sit back when you've said enough and let silence do unpaid labor. Silence is not a gap, silence is a gavel. If someone tries to fill it with a jab, redirect to structure. Let's catalog issues in one list. We'll solve them in order. Notice the word we. It recruits the room into your tempo without inviting debate about tone. Choose verbs that steer, anchor, align, decide, escalate, defer, document, deliver. Verbs, drive, velocity. Replace I think maybe with I propose. Replace we could with we will unless there's a stronger case. Uncertainty belongs in the analysis, not the delivery. Respect grows where decisiveness meets transparency. Here are the options. Here are the costs. Here's my recommendation. Objections? The cadence is clean. The door is open. The standard is clear. Protect your tempo with tools. Agenda sent 24 hours early. A single page of options. A recap doc that lands the same day. Rhythm builds reputation, and reputation builds room control. When people know you'll open with the outcome, move through options, and close with owners and dates, they subconsciously yield to your lane markers. You become the metronome others unconsciously follow. Personally, I feel on time, on brief, on brand is charisma for grown-ups. When emotions spike, don't fight the spike, contain it. We're hot right now. 2-minute water break. When we're back, we'll stick to the agenda. That line does 3 things: acknowledges reality, resets physiology, restores rules. Leaders don't pretend storms aren't real. Leaders install gutters so the roof holds. From my subjective opinion, the bravest thing in a heated room is the calm invitation to standards. Finally, script your closing cadence. Meetings drift because endings are vague. Land the plane. We decided X. Owners are A and B. Deadlines Friday, 3 p.m. I'll send the recap today. Next step is C. Then stop. No apology tour. No. Does that make sense? When it already does. Stand, gather, and go. The room learns. When you talk, outcomes happen. When outcomes happen, respect compounds. And that is the quiet magic of owning frame and tempo. You stop chasing validation and start setting velocity. Here's the hard truth. Most people don't lack courage. They lack clean sentences. They feel the surge. They know a line was crossed. And then they either swallow it, resentment, or swing wildly regret. Boundaries aren't about big speeches. They're about simple, repeatable phrases that restore standards without donating your nervous system. Personally, I feel the rarest power in any room is the ability to correct behavior without leaking emotion. That's what we build here. Rules without rage. Start with the 3 tons. Rule timely, terse, traceable. Timely. Address the breach near the moment before stories metastasize. Terse. 1 or 2 lines. No autobiography. Traceable. Easy to remember, easy to quote, easy to document. Your boundary toolkit has 4 families. To 1, process restorers. Put the rails back on. Oh, we're off agenda. Let's return to item 3. Or 1 speaker at a time. Finish and I'll go. Oh, keep it on the work, not the person. These do not argue content. They govern method. They convert heat into architecture. 2, if divided by then consequences, price the behavior. Oh, if side comments continue, we'll reschedule with the decision maker. Oh, if deadlines shift, we'll move scope to match. Oh, if this requires real-time debate, we'll move it from chat to a 15-minute call. Consequences should be boring because boring is believable. Drama invites debate, policy ends it. 3, terrain shifts change the game to win the game. Oh, consolidate questions in 1 thread. I'll reply at 3 p.m. Oh, loop finance and legal. We'll respond once approvals are in. Oh, let's move this to the decision doc. Options, trade-offs, recommendation. Disrespect breeds in ambiguity. Terrain shifts suffocated with structure. 4, escalation ladders. Predictable, proportional, enforceable. Oh, step 1, boundary line. We're off standard, reset. Oh, step 2, stated consequence. Repeat it and we reschedule with stakeholders. Oh, step 3, enforce consequence. Actually reschedule, don't bluff. Oh, step 4, private surgical correction. At 10:12, X broke Y standard, next repeat triggers Z. Oh, step 5, exit with documentation when patterns persist. From my subjective opinion, the loudest boundary is the quiet enforcement people see once. Now, craft your delivery. Body leads voice. Shoulders low, jaw unclenched, breath through the nose. Speak on the exhale. Avoid daggers. Prefer mechanism language. We're off process. This is outside scope. Decision needs owners and dates. Mechanism language removes ego targets and leaves only rails. The goal is not to wound. The goal is to reinstall standards. Let's make this friction-proof with scripts you can steal. Interruptions, hold. 1 speaker at a time, finish, then I'll go. Personal jabs. Keep it on the work. What's the requirement? Scope creep. Happy to add, we'll adjust the timeline accordingly. Vague ass. I'm missing owner and deadline, add both and I'll move. Public bait, noted. I'll respond in the recap so we capture it correctly. His spear. Back-channeling, let's keep decisions in the main thread so we have 1 source of truth. Chronic lateness. We'll start on time. Late arrivals can review the recap. Status theater. Let's log issues in order. We'll solve them 1 by 1. For remote work and fast channels, pair boundaries with format. Slack divided by chat. Thread this questions in 1 place. I'll reply by 2. Email, subject, decision, owner, date. First line, outcome, X. Options considered. A, divided by B. Chosen, A. Owners, divided by do. Docs, top banner. Purpose divided by decision, divided by owner, divided by deadline, divided by risks. Rhythm is respect. When your outputs arrive on time and on pattern, the room learns your operating tempo and unconsciously syncs to it. What about warmth? Strength without warmth makes people comply, not commit. Add micro-kindness to your boundaries. Thanks, let's keep it on the brief. Appreciate the passion. We'll route it into the decision doc. You're not sugarcoating standards. You're reducing unnecessary friction so the work moves. Personally, I feel dignity given is dignity returned most of the time. For the outliers, your ladder holds. Common traps to dodge. Over-explaining. Extra words leak power. Say less, mean more. Performing anger. Cathartic now, costly later. Don't give the bait the show it wants. Vague threats, don't do that again, is noise. Repeat it and we reschedule with X, is governance. Crowd pleasing. Boundaries are for outcomes, not applause. Let the room be uncomfortable for a minute, the work will thank you. Build your boundary bank, a one-pager with your top 10 lines across the 4 families. Rehearse them out loud until they fit your mouth. Under heat, you won't rise to the occasion. You'll default to the bank you funded. Write them on a sticky in your notebook. Tattoo them in your calendar notes. Make them muscle memory. Finally, protect your aftercare. Boundaries take energy. After a hard reset, step outside, inhale for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 8. Log the incident. Time, behavior, line used, outcome. Send the recap while the signal is fresh. This is not paranoia. This is institutional memory, the trail that makes future boundaries lighter. Because the past is documented. Remember, the point of a boundary is not to win the moment, it's to train the environment. You are building a culture where people know the price of chaos and the profit of clarity. In any niche, the operator who can restore standards without bleeding becomes inevitable. Invited into bigger rooms, trusted with heavier lifts, asked to set the metronome others follow. Rules without rage. Calm that corrects. Sentences that stick. That's how you make disrespect too expensive to afford. There's a reason some people never have to raise their voice. The price to cross them is too high. Not because they're scary, but because they're structured. The most reliable antidote to disrespect isn't a sharper comeback, it's switching costs. When replacing you is costly politically, operationally, reputationally, casual slights dry up. People may not like you, but they will respect the economics of underestimating you. Personally, I feel this is where most professionals leave power on the table. They chase charisma while ignoring the compound interest of being undeniably useful, relentlessly consistent, and publicly documented. Start with the competence stack. Deliver clean work twice early to set the myth, always on time to cement it. Clean means on brief, on brand, on budget, and with the sharp edges already sanded. Don't hand off problems as puzzles. Ship solutions with trade-offs declared. Include what we considered, why we chose, and what we'll watch. That narrative beats noise because it reduces decision fatigue for everyone upstream. From my subjective opinion, the loudest flex in any niche is a deliverable that answers questions people didn't know to ask and does it predictably. Layer documentation on top. Disrespect feeds on ambiguity, documentation starves it. Recap meetings in 5 bullets. Decision, owners, dates, risks, next milestone, timestamp agreements. Park debates in a single thread. Use subject lines that encode reality. Decision, landing page, offer V3, choose B, do free, 3 p.m. When memories compete, receipts win. Remember, you're not archiving for ego, you're building a public ledger of reliability that makes it embarrassing to second-guess you without evidence. Add network gravity. Allies are compounding assets. Build quiet relationships with the rational middle, the ones who care about outcomes, not theater. Credit them in public, support them in private, and circulate your recaps where their work benefits. Over time, your standards travel through other mouths. Let's keep it on the brief. One speaker at a time. Recap will land by end of day. Influence is when your operating system installs itself on other machines. That's not popularity, that's interoperability. Codify standards as artifacts, not preferences. Publish a one-pager called Ways of Working. Channels, response times, meeting hygiene, decision formats. The tone? Calm, invitational, firm. People don't need to guess how to win with you. They need to see the rails. The more visible your rails, the more reputational risk someone takes when they hop off. It's hard to paint you as difficult when your standards read like air traffic control. Design rarity on purpose. Don't be the person who does everything. Be the person who does outcomes in 2 or 3 high-friction zones that matter to profit, risk, or reputation. Specialize enough to be sought. Generalize enough to be dangerous. Keep a portfolio of proof, 3 case studies, each a single page. Context, constraint, choice outcome, counterfactual. What would have happened if we hadn't? You're teaching the room your signature so they recognize it and budget for it. Install cadence as brand. People respect rhythms they can set their watches by. Open with the outcome, move through options, close with owners and dates. Send the recap the same day. Friday, send a 2-paragraph weekly. What shipped? what slipped, what's next, where you need air cover. Rhythm makes you legible. Legibility makes you trusted. Trust makes you expensive to disrespect because breaking trust in public comes with a cost. Engineer friction for bad behavior and frictionless paths for good. When someone bypasses scope, the system should automatically resize timeline and budget. When someone follows process, they should feel speed. You're not punishing people. You're aligning incentives. Machiavelli's old line about fear versus love translates here as predictability versus performance. People don't need to fear you. They need to foresee consequences with mathematical certainty. Guard reputation surfaces. LinkedIn recap posts, internal memos, client thank yous, postmortems where you shoulder blame fast and share credit faster. These aren't vanity, they're signal amplifiers. The public record of how you operate becomes a shielding halo. The next time a cheap shot flies, it hits the halo first. From my subjective opinion, boringly dependable in public out-earns brilliant in private. Over any 18-month span, practice price signaling in your calendar. Protect deep work blocks like they pay your mortgage because they do. Arrive 3 minutes early, leave 1 minute after the last decision lands. Decline meetings without owners, agendas, or outcomes. Happy to contribute once purpose and decision maker are clear. That line doesn't posture, it teaches. And teaching your environment is how you raise the valuation of your time. Build redundancy without replaceability. Document your process so the team thrives, yet keep your judgment as the scarce resource. Anyone can follow steps. Few can weigh trade-offs under fog. Train others to run the playbook while you refine the playbook. The result? You scale impact without flattening your value. Finally, make character non-negotiable. Skill earns you access. Character decides whether the door stays open. Tell the truth early. Admit misses without self-erasure. Keep confidences. Close loops. There's an aura to integrity that acts like compound interest, quiet, relentless, irreversible. Disrespect hates integrity because it can't hook it. There's nothing sticky for drama to cling to. Here's the punchline. You don't beg for respect. You invoice for it by how you operate. Stack competence, documentation, network, standards, cadence, reputation, and character until the most economical option for everyone is to treat you right. When the cost of crossing you exceeds the thrill of trying, the games stop. You don't need to dominate the room. You need to make the room realize it's cheaper, smarter, faster, cleaner to run at your standard. That's when you become expensive to disrespect. And once you're expensive, you're inevitable. If disrespect is a fire, terrain is the oxygen. Some rooms reward chaos. Some channels reward speed over sense. Some audiences reward spectacle over standards. You do not have to play there. Elite operators don't only argue better, they locate better. They ask which medium forces clarity, which timeline lowers adrenaline, which audience cares about outcomes, not theater. Then they move the conversation to that ground calmly, openly, predictably. Personally, I feel 80% of difficult people become ordinary once you relocate them to places where evidence outranks volume. Start with channel hygiene. Hallway ambushes? Convert to calendar invites. Rambling chats? Convert to a single-threaded message with a clear prompt. Noisy group calls? Convert to a decision doc with options, trade-offs, recommendation, and owners. The act of writing shrinks ego because text hates vagueness. Ambition loves credit, text loves clarity. When someone fires a hot take in public, don't duel. Transmute. Capturing this in one thread, I'll respond by 3 p.m. with options and a recommendation. You just replaced adrenaline with a timestamp. Engineer time as terrain. Urgency is often a smokescreen for sloppiness. Install response windows that serve thinking. For anything non-blocking, expect a same-day recap. For decisions affecting budget or brand, 24-48 hours with a written recommendation. This is not foot dragging, this is cognitive safety. From my subjective opinion, oxygenated prefrontal cortices outperform caffeinated amygdalas every quarter. Curate the audience. Spectators magnify drama. Stakeholders magnify decisions. Ask yourself, who is the real decider? Who bears the consequences? Who can enforce standards? Then kindly narrow the cast. Looping in the owner. Moving commentary to the decision doc. We'll keep this thread read-only for status. You didn't silence anyone, you upgraded the acoustics. Normalize agenda discipline. Send 3 lines 24 hours early. Outcome, issues in order, decision needed. Open meetings by reading them out loud. Close by reading the decision back. When ambitious tangents appear, park them in a later lot at the bottom of the dock. Parking isn't dismissal, it's sequence. Disrespect thrives when sequence dies. You bring sequence back. Commit to single sources of truth. A living, frequently asked questions. A runbook. A metrics dashboard. A risk log. These artifacts reduce personality friction because they absorb heat into shared memory. If someone tries to relitigate settled history, point, don't pout. Per the runbook, Rev 1.7, we escalate after 2 misses, doing so now. Notice the absence of blame. You aren't mad, you are maintaining infrastructure. Deploy format that forces thought. 2-option memos, A versus B, red team sections. What breaks? Pre-mortems. If we fail, it'll be because. The structure trains minds to argue with reality, not with each other. When people feel heard by a format, they stop shouting for attention. And when the format survives the loudest day, so does your authority. Finally, honor public neutrality, private specificity. In public, principles, process, timeline. In private, time-stamped feedback, observed behavior, next consequence. Machiavelli's modern ethic isn't cruelty, it's predictability. People should learn that you will always choose the ground where facts are visible, standards are legible, and memories are durable. That's not avoidance, that's governance. Move the game, and the goal tends to take care of itself. You don't need a spectacle to restore order, you need certainty. In every system, there are 2 audiences. The individual who crossed the line, and the group watching to see what lines mean. Get this wrong and you breed theater. Get it right and you breed trust. Personally, I feel the most humane form of strength is the one that never requires a raised voice, only a raised standard, applied with serene consistency. The private side is surgical. Use the triple S template. Specific standard, specific breach, specific stakes. Standard, we start on time and decisions get documented same day. Breach, yesterday, 10/2/10/17, we reopened a settled decision without the owner. It's stakes. Repeat once and we reschedule with the decision maker. Repeat twice and you'll be off the work stream for a sprint. No adjectives, no psychoanalysis, no history lesson. Behavior, not character. Next step, not outrage. The public side is principled. You're not naming names, you're naming norms. We keep critique on the work, not the person. One speaker at a time. Deadlines move scope, not magic. These lines aren't warnings. They're reminders engraved into the environment. People need walls to feel safe. You provide architecture, not attitude. Make consequences boringly inevitable. If lateness is habitual, meetings start on time. And the recap includes action item for late arrivals. Review recording. Questions go to thread by EOD. If scope creep appears, the Gantt adjusts in the same breath. If public jabs surface, you pause, reset the frame, and route hot topics to a written forum. From my subjective opinion, a predictable consequence is kinder than a charismatic exception because it protects everyone's attention. Honor proportionality. First breach, boundary. Second, boundary plus consequence stated. Third, enforce. Fourth, remove from the arena with documentation. Mercy is not the absence of consequences. It is the absence of surprise. When people know the ladder, they climb or they step off. Either way, the culture gets cleaner. Pair firmness with face-saving exits. We'll rotate facilitation for 2 sprints. Fresh voices help. Translation, the interrupter sits out without a scarlet letter. Your aim isn't humiliation, it's habituation, training better defaults. Humiliation creates martyrs. Habituation creates muscle memory. Close loops with recaps that read like instruments, not indictments. Decision A owners, Sam divided by Leah, due, free, 3 p.m. Risks, bandwidth, mitigation, block 2 hours Thursday. This tone inoculates you against the charge of being emotional while delivering a very emotional gift. Stability. Crowds respect what they can predict, and they respect the person who keeps their days sane. When the rare high conflict moment demands public steel, make it about the rule, not the rebel. We are at risk of leaving the standard. We will pause. When we return, we'll stick to the brief. Then you actually pause. Do not confuse courage with volume. Courage is enforcement at cost, even if it costs a little of your popularity dividend today to protect everyone's calendar and dignity tomorrow. That's leadership without theater, and its echo lasts longer than any clapback could. Words either pour gasoline or they pour a foundation. The way you phrase a sentence can decide whether a room spirals or stabilizes. Swap heat for architecture language that creates containers, clarifies tasks, and cools temperature without cooling ambition. Personally, I feel the fastest upgrade any professional can make is a vocabulary that turns noise into nouns, feelings into formats, and conflict into calendar entries. Start with mechanism language. Replace "you're being difficult" with "we're off" process. Replace "you never listen" with "we need one speaker at a time." Replace "that's wrong" with "which requirement is unmet." Mechanisms are uninsultable. They pull attention from identity to infrastructure. When arguments move to infrastructure, people stop defending themselves and start defending outcomes. Use task converters. Whenever an attack flies, convert it into a task with an owner and a due date. Great, log that as risk hash 4. Assign an owner and mitigation by tomorrow. Snark hates spreadsheets. If someone insists on vibes, translate. Let's operationalize that concern. What's the failure mode and the trigger? You didn't dismiss their emotion, you domesticated it. Adopt scaffolding verbs that steer momentum. Anchor, align, clarify, decide, document, escalate, defer, mitigate. Verbs are velocity controls. Compare. I think maybe we could V's. I recommend we decide between A and B now. Absent stronger evidence, we'll anchor on A. Same brain, different ballast. From my subjective opinion, the right verb can shave weeks off a wandering project and years off a wandering reputation. Master neutralizers. Phrases that acknowledge heat while routing it to function. I hear the urgency. Here's the sequence. We're passionate. Let's put that energy into the options table. Good tension, park it in the later lot, then return after the decision. You're not dousing fire, you're building a hearth. Fire inside a hearth warms, fire on the carpet burns. Practice precision pronouns. We to recruit, I to own, you only for praise or clear responsibility. We're off brief, recruits the room. I'll send the recap at 4, owns the next step. You shipped ahead of schedule, appreciated, rewards the standard you want repeated. Keep you away from blame. Make systems carry the blame so people can carry the fix. End sprawl with periods of power. Long sentences leak authority. Short sentences land decisions. We're choosing B. Owner is Anna. Deadline is Friday. Then stop. Silence after a period teaches the room where gravity lives. It also creates space for real objections, the kind that improve outcomes rather than habitual noise. Codify a style sheet for your niche. Subject line tokens, bullet order, decision owners, dates, risks, next, and a glossary for recurring concepts. Shared language is shared leverage. It removes translation, taxes, and reduces the surface area for disrespect to cling to. When everyone speaks structure, no one needs to speak louder. Finally, let kindness co-sign your clarity. Thanks, let's keep it on the brief. Appreciate the pushback, log it as risk hash 3. Warmth doesn't weaken boundaries, it lubricates them so the work can move without grinding gears. Language is leverage. Choose words that build walls where chaos would enter, doors where progress should flow, and windows so everyone can see the same sky. Chasing crowds gets you applause. Cultivating allies gets you outcomes. Audiences want a show, allies want a ship date. If you want to kill disrespect at scale, stop feeding the balcony and start feeding the bench, the rational middle that loves clarity, hates chaos, and remembers who made their workday easier. Personally, I feel the most underrated power move is a calendar full of one-on-ones with the people whose calm competence actually runs the place. Map your coalition lattice. Cross-functional peers, adjacent teams, operations, finance, legal, QA. The folks who carry consequences when projects wobble. Give them early looks. Ask for red team takes. Credit their catches in public recaps. Over time, they'll carry your standards into rooms you don't attend. Let's thread this. They'll respond by 3. One speaker at a time. Decision doc, or it didn't happen. This is influence as distributed muscle memory. Trade in favors of friction removal. Answer the unasked question in your deliverable. Add the checklist someone else forgot. Summarize the 20-thread chat into a one-pager and tag the owner. You're not doing extra, you're investing in reciprocal clarity. The day you need an escalation or a witness, the bench shows up because your work always made their work easier. Practice credit arbitrage. Overpay credit in public, accept precise credit in private. Shout out to ops for surfacing the risk, costs you nothing and buys you everything. Scarcity mindsets hoard spotlight and inherit silence. Abundance mindsets flood others with signal and inherit speakers, people who repeat your lines when you're not in the room. Set rituals of reliability. Weekly 2-paragraph update to allies. What's shipped, what's slipped, what's next, where help is useful. Rituals create expectations. Expectations create trust. Trust creates defense. When a cheap shot flies, your allies don't need your rebuttal. They have your receipts and their memories of clean handoffs and calm calls under pressure. Anchor conflict and curiosity. Allies are born when pressure reveals posture. Intense cross-team moments ask, what am I not seeing that's blocking you? Then listen. Then translate their block into your plan. You didn't seed standards, you braided realities. From my subjective opinion, curiosity under heat is the handshake that turns a wary neighbor into a co-author. Creates shared wins that are hard to erase. Co-authored docs, co-owned KPIs, co-presented readouts. Shared artifacts survive gossip because they performed. When stories collide with spreadsheets, spreadsheets win. Allies become your anti-fragile armor, diffusing disrespect before it congeals. And you become the rare operator whose influence doesn't spike with a viral moment, it compounds with a reliable network that likes how it feels to work the way you work. Remember, audiences remember your punchlines. Allies remember your process. One gives you claps, the other gives you rooms. Choose rooms. They last longer, pay better, and surround you with people who guard your name when you're not there to defend it. You will crack. You will snap a little sentence you wish you could unsay. You will send a spicy reply at 11:47 p.m. that reads louder in daylight. The test is not whether you stumble, it's whether you repair faster than the story can metastasize. Personally, I feel the most respected professionals aren't flawless, they're fast at making things right and ruthless about extracting systems from their own mistakes. Use the 3 R's within 24 hours. 1. Recognize. Own the breach. I let heat lead in the meeting, my miss. No hedging, no shared blame, no if you felt. 2. Repair, ship the fix. Here's the corrected recap, owners and dates. I've moved the open questions to a single thread. 3. Reinstate, restore the rails. Going forward, we'll route debate into the decision doc. Live calls are for choosing. Short, specific, forward-leaning. You're not performing contrition, you're reinstalling governance. If emotions leaked on stage, add a private apology that respects dignity and data. At 10:12, I interrupted you. It broke our one-speaker rule. Won't repeat, then stop. Do not write a memoir. Contrition without choreography invites relitigation. Contrition with choreography teaches the system what happens next. The rails snap back. The train keeps moving. Create a post-incident brief for yourself. Trigger tell tool. Trigger. What sensory cue preceded your slip tone? Phrase. Time pressure. Tell what bodily signal warned you, jaw, breath, speed, heat. Tool. Which sentence or terrain shift you'll deploy next time. This is not therapy, it's training. Under stress, you won't discover new moves, you'll default to trained ones. Set tripwires that prevent repeats. Email delay send after 10 p.m. A cool-off macro that drafts noted moving to doc. Will reply by 3 p.m. with 1 keystroke. A timer that pings at minute 20 of a heated call to force a water break. You are not weak for needing rails. Strong drivers love guardrails on cliff roads. Narrate miss to system in your weekly update. We overtalked a settled item Tuesday. We've added a decision lock line and recaps and a 5-minute reopen protocol. You didn't protect your ego, you protected everyone's Tuesday. Respect accrues to the person who makes the next Tuesday smoother. When your slip hurt someone standing, add reputational restitution. Name their contribution in the next public forum, co-present their analysis, or route a win their way. Restitution isn't penance, it's balance. You nudge the scales, now you nudge them back. Lastly, forgive cleanly yourself and them. Shame is a poor coach. It teaches hiding, not higher standards. Replace shame with standards plus structure. I'm the person who pauses, routes to writing, and decides with receipts. Repeat until it's true again. Reputations don't die from a stumble, they die from silence after the stumble. Repair out loud, reinstate the rails, return to tempo, and keep moving, because the room will remember not that you fell, but that you stood up faster than the story could spread. There's a limit to how much respect you can extract from any room, and that limit is the altitude of your self-respect. Rooms don't reliably treat you better than you treat yourself. They take their cues from your rituals, your boundaries, your follow-through. If your calendar is chaos, your inbox is a roulette wheel, your promises drift, and your body is sending "I'm running on fumes" signals, the room reads all of that before you speak. Respect is not only earned by outcomes, it's signaled by order. Personally, I feel the most practical confidence hack in any niche isn't louder words, it's cleaner systems that make you inevitable and unflappable. Start with the physiology of authority. Your body is the billboard of your standard. Sleep like it funds your future, because it does. Hydrate before caffeine. Touch strength or sweat daily. 5 honest sets can carry you through 5 dishonest meetings. Posture is policy. Shoulders down and back, jaw unlocked, slow nasal breath. Speak on the exhale. None of this is vanity, it's signal hygiene. People unconsciously calm to those who self-govern. Your nervous system teaches the room how to treat you. Then move to environmental edges. Clutter is a tax on conviction. Put your workspace on a budget. 1 clean surface, 1 notebook, 1 pen you actually like, 1 agenda on display. Your screen is not a carnival. Close stray tabs, kill pop-ups, silence non-essential notifications. If your attention is promiscuous, your presence is discounted. From my subjective opinion, a ruthless environment is not cold. It's kind to your future self, the one who has to defend standards at 3:15 p.m. when the meeting turns messy. Now the calendar covenant. Your calendar is a constitution. Write it like a nation depends on it. Anchor deep work blocks where your brain is best. Protect them like revenue. Meetings require 3 visas: owner, outcome, agenda. No visas, no entry. Begin on time, land decisions out loud, leave 1 minute after the final recap is promised. Declining low-signal invites is not arrogance. It is agriculture. You are protecting the soil that grows results. Install a weekly standing hour titled Maintenance Systems, not Feelings. That hour is for templates, checklists, runbooks, and pruning, so you don't spend Thursdays firefighting what Monday could have prevented. Guard digital dignity. Email gets 3 lanes: today, this week, someday. If a message takes under 2 minutes, do it now. If it needs thought, pin it to a decision slot. If it's for your information, archive after tagging the source. Build response SLAs you can keep same day for non-blocking. 24-48 hours for decisions with dollars or brand. Publish these SLAs in your ways of working. When people know your rhythm, they stop poking your adrenaline for answers. Rhythm turns you from a vending machine into a reliable utility. Make promises boring, then keep them beautifully. I'll send the recap at 4 should be the safest sentence anyone hears from you. If you miss, you don't miss twice. Ship the correction with no alibi. Missed 4 p.m. Recap below. New guardrail. Calendar alarm plus template. The reputational compound interest from utterly predictable follow-through dwarfs the fleeting profit of a clever retort. In any niche, they do what they say when they set out earns. They say spectacular things across a year. Craft a personal code you can fit on a note card. 1. We protect the work from heat by routing heat to structure. 2. We price chaos in timelines. We reward clarity with speed. 3. We tell the truth early and we log it once. 4. We never confuse urgency with importance or volume with value. 5. We escalate standards, not emotions. Read it every morning. Tape it inside your notebook. Codes are not slogans, they are pre-decisions, so when pressure arrives, you don't negotiate with adrenaline. Set food and input boundaries. Because your mind eats what your mouth eats and what your eyes scroll. Processed outrage is junk fuel. If you wouldn't let a stranger shout in your kitchen for an hour, don't let an algorithm do it in your cortex. Replace a doom scroll with a build scroll. Papers, case studies, pattern libraries, masterclass notes. 10 minutes a day of high signal input turns you into the person who adds unexpected clarity on Friday calls without theatrics, because your baseline is better fed. Institute no as a complete sentence without apology, then add kindness as garnish. No capacity is full. Here's a template divided by, here's when I can do it, divided by, here's who can. Your value rises when your availability becomes legible and your alternatives are generous. You are not a wall, you are a well with a schedule. Personally, I feel every no you say to noise is a yes. You pre-give to composure when the moment matters. Practice micro-elegance. The glass of water before coffee, the 2-minute desk reset between calls, the habit of standing to make difficult decisions, the thank you that names the specific behavior you want repeated. Micro-elegance doesn't impress, it stabilizes. You are building a runway for your best self to land on, repeatedly, until even your off days look composed. Tie self-respect to visible artifacts, publish your ways of working one-pager, keep a living decision log with dates, owners, and why. Maintain a risk register with triggers and mitigations. When someone brings heat, point to the artifact, not your feelings. Artifacts let a room disagree with a rule without disrespecting a person. That separation is oxygen for respect. Create private ceremonies that move courage from wish to muscle. A 60-second breath before you speak in a contentious room. A handwritten note after a hard day that names one win and one system you improved. A Friday scoreboard where you list outcomes, not hours. Ceremonies make identity olfactory. You can smell who you are because you keep meeting them in rituals. And yes, audit your company of selves, the voices you entertain when nobody's watching. If your inner monologue is a heckler, evict them. Replace "why do they treat me like this?" with "what systems teach people how to treat me?" Replace "I hope they respect me" with "I operate at a level that makes disrespect expensive." You can't out-argue a dirty mirror. Clean it. Then believe what you see, because you built it. Here is the paradox that will change your rooms. The more you invest in private order, the less you need public armor. People relax around a person who self-governs, because predictability is the most humane form of power. Set your edges, keep your promises, guard your inputs, publish your rails, move your body, breathe like the chairperson of your own nervous system. From my subjective opinion, nothing you can say will ever be as persuasive as the way you are arranged. Self-respect sets the ceiling. Raise it through ritual, through rails, through receipts. When your inner standard is unmistakable, external respect stops being a negotiation and becomes a reflection. The room doesn't need to be tamed when the operator is already trained. You are building a life whose order argues for you before your mouth opens and keeps arguing after you leave. There is a power most people never cultivate because it looks like doing nothing. Strategic non-engagement. We are raised to believe that every slight deserves a speech, every jab deserves a counter, every wrong requires a duel. That belief is how amateurs get drafted into endless skirmishes while the pros keep building. The truth is simple and unsentimental. The fastest way to make disrespect unprofitable is to refuse to supply it with attention, timeline, or terrain. Personally, I feel the most elite move in any niche is not the perfect clapback. It's the clean exit, paired with immaculate documentation. You don't abandon the field, you remove the circus and keep the factory running. Begin with the economics of attention. Attention is a budget. Every minute you spend litigating tone is a minute you didn't spend advancing outcomes, strengthening alliances, or sharpening systems. Disrespect survives by arbitrage. It converts your outrage into its oxygen. Don't fund it. Price your attention like an asset with carrying costs. Ask, if I feed this, what compound return will it produce in 90 days? If the answer is none, you are looking at a distraction masquerading as duty. Decline. Install a no-go matrix so you aren't improvising under heat. 4 cells, low stakes divided by low signal, low stakes divided by high signal, high stakes divided by low signal, high stakes divided by high signal, low divided by low. Ignore and archive. Low divided by high, 1 boundary sentence, 1 recap, move on. High divided by low, relocate to writing, require owner divided by agenda, no live oxygen until structure exists. High divided by high, engage briefly, surgically, with decision artifacts. From my subjective opinion, the biggest personal upgrades I've watched came when people learned to let low divided by low die quietly. Not every mosquito gets a meeting. Pair non-engagement with receipt-rich minimalism. Noted outside scope. Closing this thread unless new data arrives. 12 words. No autobiography. No blame. The sentence shuts the spigot, establishes the frame, and leaves a paper trail. If the noise persists, escalate to terrain. Happy to revisit once the decision doc is prepared. Options, trade-offs owner. Until then, pausing this channel. You're not cold, you're consistent. Systems first, then sentiment. Set time fences that make bait expensive. Delay send after 10 p.m. Batch replies at 2 windows per day. Use a 24-hour cooling rule for anything that spikes your pulse. While you cool, your environment reveals itself. The opportunists burn out, the serious craft, the doc. Silence is not surrender. Silence is sorting. Personally, I feel a disciplined inbox is a character statement. I am not an alarm you can pull to watch me run. Define your exit ladders in advance. 1. Micro exit. Let's park this decision doc by EOD tomorrow. 2. Channel exit. Moving to email with the owner. This thread read only for status. 3. Room exit. We're off standard. We'll reschedule with all stakeholders present. Stand. Leave. 4. Workstream exit. Pattern persists. Recommending reassignment. See attached log. Each rung is proportional, documented, and boringly predictable. That predictability is mercy. It warns, it teaches, it deters. Practice non-reactive posture. When a jab lands, your tells try to tell on you. Jaw tightens, breath shortens, voice rises. Reverse it. Drop the shoulders, lengthen the exhale. Let 3 seconds pass. Then either deliver the boundary, keep it on the work, or deliver the nothing. A steady look, a note on your pad, a return to the agenda, outcome remains X. Next item. The room will feel the gravitational pull of your composure. The instigator will feel the loneliness of performing without an audience. Use proxy enforcement so you don't have to become the sheriff in every scene. Create artifacts that do the talking. A ways of working page that says off-topic items move to the later lot. Unresolved heat routes to a written forum. Live time is for choosing. Now, when bait appears, you aren't being difficult. You're following the constitution you published. People can disagree with a person. They're less eager to disagree with infrastructure. Adopt benevolent indifference towards small disrespect. Not everything is a referendum on your worth. The smile shortened name, correct once, then keep building. The side eye, return to the outcome. The sarcastic sigh, convert to a task. Log that as risk #3, owner by noon. You are not here to win micro theater. You are here to leave macro results. From my subjective opinion, dignity grows in the soil of choosing your battles and then choosing to finish them. Remember face-saving exits. If you must end an unproductive exchange, leave the other person a clean door. We're both hot. Let's reconvene tomorrow with the options table filled. You're not soft, you're smart. Martyrs recruit crowds. People given a graceful exit often return as decent collaborators because you protected their status while protecting your standards. Guard your energy portfolio like treasure. Walk away from arguments that have no owner, no timer, and no impact. Walk away from drive-by feedback that arrives without context or accountability. Walk away from threads that keep moving the target. Every exit you make from noise is an entrance you make into focus. Focus compounds into competence. Competence compounds into leverage. Leverage purchases, rooms where disrespect is too costly to spend. And yes, sometimes you exit for good. A vendor who burns timelines and blames weather, replace. A colleague whose sport is public diminishment, document, escalate, remove. A client who treats your team like disposable napkins, offboard with a letter that cites the missed standards and your duty of care to your people. Courage is often a cancellation policy enforced with grace. Here is the paradox. Walking away, done well, doesn't shrink your presence, it sharpens it. People learn that you are profoundly available for work that matters and profoundly unavailable for work that wounds. They learn that you won't fund drama with your daylight, and you won't mortgage tomorrow's clarity to pay for today's ego duel. They adjust because the path of least resistance is now the path of highest standard. That is leadership without theater. That is Machiavellian in the modern sense, governing incentives instead of wrestling egos. And it is the quiet, elegant art of not giving away an inch while taking back your entire day. Power that earns respect is not the kind that makes people flinch. It's the kind that makes people straighten, sit taller, bring their best, and breathe easier, because order is here. The paradox is real. The firmer your standards, the more your kindness matters. Without standards, kindness melts into appeasement. Without kindness, standards calcify into control. Blend them, and you become the gravity that keeps messy constellations in orbit. Personally, I feel the highest compliment in any niche isn't they're brilliant, it's you're safe with them, clear, fair, human. Start with definition. Kindness is not softness, and it's not the absence of consequence. Kindness is precision with care. It is delivering the exact feedback that improves the work while protecting the person's dignity. It's the tone that says, "We will not miss," and the posture that says, "You won't be shamed on the way." Respect flowers in that soil because people can take risks without fearing character assassination when a bet goes sideways. Install 3 operating rituals that fuse strength and warmth. 1. Credit in public, correction in private. Praise travels. Corrections land softly. Public credit turns your standards into culture because the room learns what gets celebrated. On brief work, documented decisions, one speaker discipline, clean recaps. Private correction keeps status intact while you tighten screws. At 10:12, we broke one speaker. Next time, hand raise. I'll call on you. No adjectives, no autopsy of motives, just rails. 2. Name the good before the gap. Open feedback by catching what's working specifically. Your options table surfaced. The real trade-off, latency versus cost. Then address the delta. We still need benchmarks on A divided by B by Wednesday. You are anchoring competence before adding load. From my subjective opinion, people accelerate faster when their existing strength is recognized as runway, not ignored as baseline. 3. Offer a door, not a dump. When you set a boundary, add one helpful step, a template, a checklist, a pointer to the run book. No, we can't accept scope by DM. Yes, here's the request form. I'll review at 3 p.m. You have not caved, you have channeled. The kindness is the paved road that keeps them from cutting across your lawn again. Practice status generosity, let others speak first. Ask the quiet expert to open the risk section. Rotate facilitation so your standards aren't a monarchy, they're a method the team owns. You're not diluting authority, you're distributing it. The room reads this as confidence, because it is. A leader who can hand the mic without losing the frame teaches the culture that power here is service-shaped. Adopt curiosity under heat as your reflex. When friction spikes, first question isn't who's wrong, but what constraint are we missing? Then mine for it. What would make this easy to ship? What must be true for B to beat A? Curiosity cools temperature because it seeks mechanism, not villains. It's also disarming. The loudest critic often wants to feel smart. Hand them a bounded puzzle and a due date. Suddenly their energy feeds the system instead of setting it on fire. Create humane clocks. Begin on time so mornings aren't sacrificed on the altar of someone else's chaos. And 5 minutes early so people can breathe before the next Zoom. Send the recap the same day so nobody carries fog into dinner. This is kindness as logistics. People will match your pace because it respects their life beyond your meeting grid. Language matters. Pair iron with velvet in a single sentence. I care about this team and I care about this standard. We will not cut corners, and we will help each other hit the corner on time. Your idea has legs. Now, let's give it shoes owner, date, metric. These lines are small bridges people will cross. They also immunize you against the cheap critique that standards equal severity. You have receipts. Your warmth is visible. Guard face-saving exits as policy. When someone overreaches or misfires publicly, your aim isn't spectacle, it's continuity. Great passion. Let's route this to the dock and circle back tomorrow with numbers. You lowered the flame without dimming the person. Later, in private, you reteach the rails. Mercy here isn't weakness. It's maintenance. You're maintaining momentum and morale simultaneously. Calibrate kindness with clarity of consequence. People relax when they know the rails, even if those rails are strict. Repeat the side comments and we reschedule with the owner. Do it twice and you'll step off the work stream for a sprint. Then, this is crucial, you follow through without ceremony, no scolding monologues, no victory laps. Just enforcement. Kindness is not avoiding cost, it's removing surprise. Tend the small human moments that compound. A 30-second thank you that names the specific behavior you want replicated. A Slack nudge that says good catch. A private "you okay?" after a bruising call. These gestures don't dilute power, they cement it. People fight harder for leaders who see them as more than throughput, and teams policed by shame become creative only at hiding. Teams governed by clear rules and human regard become creative at solving. Finally, keep kindness sourced. Exhausted bodies counterfeit warmth poorly. Sleep, water, sunlight, movement, boundaries on input. These are not luxuries, they are power plants. The room does not need your martyrdom, it needs your metronome. Personally, I feel the most persuasive thing about any leader is not their metaphors, but their nervous system. If you can stay steady, speak clean, enforce quietly, and care loudly, you won't have to demand respect. You'll convert it from cautious to committed, from momentary to compounding, until the culture itself starts defending the standards you set. Strength people lean toward. Kindness that never blinks. That's the calibration. Most people treat disrespect like a stain. Scrub it, hide it, hope it doesn't set. Operators treat it like ore, mine it, smelt it, forge it into systems that make the next day cheaper and cleaner. The difference is philosophy. One asks, how do I feel less hurt? The other asks, how do we make this impossible or unprofitable to repeat? When you convert every messy moment into a mechanism, you stop firefighting and start fireproofing. Personally, I feel this is where quiet careers become inevitable, by building a library of living tools that takes your team from we cope to we compound, especially in a crowded niche where clarity is currency. Begin with a simple pipeline. Capture, classify, codify, circulate, calibrate, capture. After any heat, resist the therapy monologue. Write the facts. Timestamp the moment. Note the behavior, interruption during decision. Scope via DM. Reopen settled item. The cost, minutes lost, risk introduced, and the missing rail agenda. Owner, there was slay. Keep a single friction ledger so you're looking at patterns, not personalities. 5 lines, not 5 paragraphs. Data wins because data remembers. Classify. File each incident into a small taxonomy. Process, people, product, protocol. Process equals sequence errors. No agenda, no owner. People equals skill or behavior gap. Facilitation, listening. Product equals artifact quality, briefs, specs. Protocol equals governance, missing who decides, how we escalate. Classification prevents overreacting to one loud symptom by installing the wrong cure. From my subjective opinion, 70% of people problems shrink once you fix process edges first. Codify. This is the alchemy stage. Translate pain into a template, checklist, or clause. Interruption, chaos. Add a one-speaker rule to the meeting footer, plus a raised hand protocol in the tool. Scope by DM, create a request intake form with fields for owner, deadline, definition of done, root approvals through a visible queue. Decision amnesia, add a decision lock line to every recap. Decision, X reopen, requires owner plus new data. Hot debates on vibe. Introduce a decision doc. Skeleton options, trade-offs, risks, cost, recommendation, owner, date. Lateness, publish a start on time covenant and attach recordings plus recaps as the default catch-up path. A rule of thumb, if a sentence saved you once, turn it into a sentence starter in a shared template. If a reset worked twice, turn it into a step in the runbook. If a conflict repeats thrice, turn it into a policy with teeth. Circulate. Systems only live if everyone can see them. House your artifacts in one navigable hub labeled like an airport, not a poem. Runbooks, divided by templates, divided by SLAs, divided by decision logs, divided by risk register, divided by FAQs. Link these in your email signature and meeting invites. Open each session by pointing to the relevant artifact. We'll use the options template, decision logs live here. Visibility converts preference into infrastructure. The more public the rail, the less personal the correction feels. Calibrate. Every system is a first draft. Schedule a monthly retro for friction. What saved us? What still leaks heat? What got weaponized? Retire stale rules. Tighten ambiguous lines. Celebrate the saves. Invite the rational middle to co-edit. Nothing earns buy-in like fingerprints. This isn't bureaucracy, it's iteration. A living library beats a dusty manual, because people can feel their fingerprints on the pages. Now, make the value obvious. Tie each new mechanism to metrics the room already respects. Meeting rules, meeting runtime down 22%. Decision clarity up, measured by fewer reopen requests. Intake forms, cycle time, predictable within plus or minus 10%, escalations drop. Decision docs, rework hours reduced. Risk surfaced earlier. SLA satisfaction scores up, late night pings down. Scoreboards convert this feels strict into this saves us budget. In any niche, the operator who can say this rule saved 14 hours and one reputational bruise last sprint wins the culture war without raising a voice. Practice designing for deterrence. A good system makes the bad path annoying and the good path easy. If someone tries to slide scope through chat, your bot replies with the intake link. If someone reopens a settled call, the decision doc requires new data since lock to proceed. If someone hot mics a jab, the facilitation script pauses and routes to the written forum. You're not policing, the rails are. The beauty of deterrence is you no longer have to be everywhere. Your operating system carries the standard when you're asleep. Turn your alchemy into onboarding. New people shouldn't inherit lore through gossip, they should inherit guardrails through artifacts. A 30-minute walkthrough of the hub. Here's how we propose, decide, escalate, and record. Eliminates 80% of the accidental disrespect that ignorance creates. Add a short quiz or a shadow session so the rituals move from paper to muscle. Bake micro rituals into the week that continually harvest friction into frameworks. Monday 15, preview decisions due and confirm owners plus docs exist. Midweek 10, review the risk register. Close 2, open none without owner. Friday 12, ship the decision digest. What locked, who owns, by when, what changed. Rituals aren't cute, they're clockwork. Clockwork is how you turn your day from reaction to repeatable momentum. Create a friction to feature loop for the product or project itself. If a client's confusion keeps spiking, it's not just a communication problem, it's a design problem. Add tooltips, FAQs, default settings that steer correct use. If internal debates repeat, add a principles page. We bias for reliability over raw speed, etc. Principles remove philosophical relitigation. They pre-decide in public. Guard against 2 pitfalls. First, weaponized process. When someone uses rules to stonewall reality, the antidote is a clause in every runbook. In emergencies, the facilitator may suspend sections. Suspensions are logged and reviewed in retro. Second, rule rot. Dead templates that nobody opens. Kill or refresh relentlessly. Personally, I feel the credibility of any system is less about its brilliance and more about its freshness. Alive documents smell like truth. Stale ones smell like theater. Don't forget storytelling. After a system saves the day, tell the micro story. 2 months ago, we bled 90 minutes arguing a reopened decision. We added the decision lock line. This week, we saved that 90 and shipped on time. Stories attach meaning to mechanism. Meaning breeds adoption. People don't fall in love with policies, they fall in love with relief in the story that honors it. Finally, make the alchemy communal. Invite the team to nominate frictions of the week. Award a tiny trophy for the best friction framework conversion. Keep a wall, virtual or literal, of retired headaches with the system that solved them. This turns improvement into a game with rules everyone can win. From my subjective opinion, nothing unites a crew faster than the shared pride of making their own work kinder and cleaner through tools they helped craft. Here's the quiet revolution. When you turn every sting into a standard, disrespect stops being a personal saga and becomes raw material for better operations. The room learns that crossing lines forces an upgrade they then have to live with, and suddenly, the cheapest behavior is the best behavior. You didn't clap back, you installed a flywheel. You didn't collect grudges, you collected guardrails. That's the kind of alchemy that changes not just how people treat you, but how your entire ecosystem performs. Change doesn't stick because we intend it, it sticks because we install it. If the last week's exposed frayed boundaries or a culture that tolerates low-grade disrespect, don't sermonize, systematize. Give yourself 30 days to reset how you operate, how rooms run around you, and how people learn to treat you. 30 days is long enough to build grooves in your nervous system and short enough to feel urgent. Personally, I feel a clean month of deliberate practice outperforms a year of sporadic firefighting. This is how we turn philosophy into physics. Operating premise: habits beat heroics. We're not hunting for one cinematic confrontation. We're laying tracks so trains run on time, whether the weather is calm or chaotic. You're going to build cadence, containers, and consequences that require less willpower every week. Week 1. Groundwork. Rails first, then speed. Objective: Make standards visible and mechanical so you can point, not plead. Publish your ways of working one-pager, sections, channels, response, SLAs, meeting hygiene, decision format, escalation ladder. Keep it polite, short, and linkable. This isn't a manifesto. It's a constitution. Install artifacts. A decision doc template, options, trade-offs, risks. Recommendation owner date. A meeting agenda, outcome issues and order decision needed. A recap skeleton, decision owners dates. Risks next. Set your inbox rhythm. 2 reply windows per day. Enable delay. Send after 10 p.m. Pin a cool off macro. Noted moving to doc. Reply by 3 p.m. Physiology baseline. Sleep window. Daily walker weights. Water before caffeine. Your body is your metronome. Tune it before you try to conduct others. Micro ritual. 1 slow breath before every send, every unmute, every reply all. Air first, then words. Expected friction. A few raised eyebrows. That's fine. New rails feel restrictive until they start saving time. From my subjective opinion, skepticism declines inversely to the number of clean recaps that hit on schedule. Week 2, boundary language and terrain mastery. Objective, make correction boring, consistent, and low drama. Move conversations to clarity-friendly ground. Rehearse your top 10 boundary sentences out loud until they fit your mouth. 3 families, process restorers. We're off agenda, back to item 3. If divided by then consequences. If side comments continue, we'll reschedule with the owner. Terrain shifts. Consolidate questions in one thread. I'll reply at 3 p.m. Channel hygiene sweep. Migrate hallway debates to calendar invites, chat storms to a single thread, emotional ping pong to a decision doc. Meeting facilitation upgrade. Open with the outcome. Enforce one speaker rule. Park tangents in a later lot. Close by reading the decision and owners back to the room. Alley cultivation, 2 quiet, 1 second with rational middle operators. Ask what frictions are taxing you, which artifact would shrink them. Make their life easier now. You'll need their echo later. Expected friction, a chronic interrupter, test the rails. Execute the latter calmly. Boundary stated, consequence, enforce consequence. No speeches, let the system speak. Week 3, deterrence by documentation receipts, reduce repetition. Objective, convert every ambiguous moment into record and rhythm so memory can't be weaponized. Decision lock line in every recap. Decision, X reopen requires owner plus new data. Watch how many phantom debates evaporate. Risk register lives in one link. Each risk has a trigger, owner, mitigation, review cadence. Heat heads to the log, not to a duel. Weekly decision digest, 2 paragraphs. What locked? Who owns? By when? What changed? Send Fridays. Templates make it painless. Consistency makes it powerful. Friction ledger, 5-line capture of any disrespect adjacent event. Time, behavior, cost, rule missing, next step. You're not building a case, you're training a system. Reputation surfaces. Share 1 concise win with receipts. Meeting runtime down 18% since agenda cadence. Shipped on time. Scoreboards convert skeptics. Expected friction, someone says it's too much process. Smile. We iterate monthly. Bring me a lighter template that protects the same outcomes. Invite co-ownership, keep the spine. Week 4, consolidation, coaching, and cuts. Objective, make the new normal. Self-sustaining, coach the willing, cut the drag. Retro for friction, 30 minutes. What saved us? What still leaks heat? What got weaponized? Retire dead rules. Sharpen mushy lines. Invite edits from the bench. You earn adoption when fingerprints appear. Teach the method. Run a 20-minute lunch and learn. Frame options, decide recap. Give your templates. Diffuse your OS so your presence isn't required for your standards to persist. Face-saving resets. Rotate facilitation to spread muscle. Pair chronic overtalkers with timekeeping duty for 2 sprints. You're shaping behavior without shaming identity. Make hard calls. If a vendor, thread, or meeting refuses the rails, exit it with documentation and dignity. Courage is often a cancellation policy enforced cleanly. Expected friction. Minimal. and mostly from those who profited from ambiguity. The rest of the room is already breathing easier. Daily practices. All 30 days. 2 moments of stillness. 6,120 seconds. Morning before first keystroke. Afternoon before the fattest decision. 3-sentence recap after any live conversation that moved money, timeline, or brand. 1 act of status generosity. Public credit, private correction, or a tiny "are you okay?" after a rough call. Power that sees people as power they protect. 1 micro cleanup. A desk reset. A doc renamed for clarity. A template refined. Micro order compounds into macro respect. What to expect by day 30. Tempo obedience. Rooms unconsciously match your cadence because outcomes keep arriving on your beat. Conflict cooling. Arguments migrate to artifacts. Heat becomes data. We disagree becomes we have documented options. Fewer reopenings. The decision lock line kills deja vu debates. Raise price of disrespect. The cheap shot now triggers logs, ladders, and loss of face too expensive for casual use. Personal steadiness. Your nervous system spends less time in fight divided by flight because your environment is finally rail rich. Pitfalls to dodge. Performing policy with hot tone. The medium is the message. If your voice flames, the rule melts. Deliver standards like weather, calm, inevitable. Template theater. Dead artifacts breed cynicism. Refresh or retire every month. Hero drift. If all enforcement routes through you, you're a bottleneck in a burnout case. Distribute facilitation. Teach the ladders. Let the system carry weight. The quiet flex. By day 30, you didn't win arguments. You made arguments rare and useful. You didn't become scarier. You became clearer. People don't defer because you roar. They align because your rails create relief. From my subjective opinion, that's the kind of power that lasts, the kind that keeps calendars sane, ships on time, and makes contempt too costly to spend. Commit to the month. Do it clean. Let the work speak. When standards become muscle and not mood, respect stops being a negotiation and starts being a reflex. Yours first, then everyone else's. Let's reclaim a word that's been dragged through centuries of misunderstanding. Machiavellian. People hear it and think scheming, cold, manipulative. But the modern humane translation applied to real teams, real calendars, real reputations is simpler and far more ethical. Govern incentives, not emotions. Choose predictability over performance. Make outcomes inevitable, not theatrical. If ethics makes you picture noble speeches, zoom out. The most ethical gift you can give any room is clarity that doesn't wobble. When people know the rails, the prices, the timelines, and the standards, they stop wasting life in avoidable conflict. Personally, I feel the kindest leader is the one who removes surprise, especially when stakes and stress are high. Start with the core principle. Predictability beats personality. Charisma can dazzle, but it also destabilizes if it becomes the operating system. Predictability, on the other hand, lowers everyone's blood pressure. The ethical Machiavellian asks, what sequence makes good behavior the path of least resistance? What consequence structure makes poor behavior too expensive to repeat? How can we turn individual temper into institutional rhythm so no single mood can hijack the day? Your answer becomes policy that doesn't need a villain to enforce itself. From my subjective opinion, that is leadership at its most compassionate, designing the arena so people can win without clawing. Consider the price tag doctrine. Old school management threatens, messy modern teams plead, both fail. Your job is to price. Late deliverables? Scope shrinks in the same breath. Side comments? Meeting pauses, we reconvene with the owner only. Reopening settled decisions? Require new data plus the decider's consent. This isn't punitive, it's physics. You're saying energy flows through channels that preserve momentum. Over a few cycles, the group learns what is cheap pre-reads, options tables, single-thread questions, and what is costly drive-by changes, vibe-based reopenings, status theater. That learning is moral because it protects attention, the rarest resource in a noisy world. Next, the visibility clause. Hidden rules breed suspicion. Ethical power publishes its operating manual. Your ways of working lives in plain sight channels, SLAs, decision format, escalation ladder, run books. You bring it up calmly, routinely, without heat. We'll route this to the decision doc. Reopen requires owner plus new information. Notice the tone. You're not scolding, you're shepherding. When people can see how to win with you, they stop guessing, and the need for performance melts into a stable hum of execution. Now draw a bright line between governing identity and governing behavior. You never diagnose someone's character in public. You govern actions. At 10:12, we broke one speaker. Next repeat, we reschedule. Behavior, time, standard, consequence, delivered dry. The ethics here are not optional. They are the shield against humiliation culture. Teams that police personality grow quiet, conservative, and resentful. Teams that police behavior grow candid, experimental, and fast. If you want innovation, you must make it safe to be wrong and impossible to be reckless. Let's talk mercy without mush. Mercy is not letting standards slide, it's removing surprise from standards. You give warnings and clear rungs in the ladder. You design face-saving exits. You rotate duties to rehabilitate offenders without branding them, and you follow through cleanly. Mercy here is system-shaped. It acts for the benefit of the group, not the ego of the leader. Personally, I feel the moment a leader hoards exception-making as a personal power trip, trust begins to die. Share the rails. Let the rails rule. Fold in proportionality. Ethical deterrence scales with impact, not with your annoyance level. A single stepped-on sentence, boundary, and move on. Patterned undermining of a decision, enforce the lock line and escalate to the owner. Habitual sabotage of scope, offboard from the work stream with documentation. You're not angry, you're accurate. People can feel the difference. Accuracy dignifies, anger degrades. The Machiavellian part governing incentives stays ethical because it is predictable and proportionate, never theatrical or vindictive. Add public neutrality, private specificity. In public, you speak in principles, one speaker at a time. Decisions live in writing, deadlines move scope, not magic. In private, you're time-stamped and surgical. Date, behavior, standard, next consequence. This split protects reputations while upgrading behavior. It also inoculates the culture against gossip. When corrections are handled privately and consistently, there's no spectacle to pass around like candy. Install red team ritual to keep your system honest. Once a month, question your own rails. Are they protecting throughput or protecting ego? Are they light enough to move, firm enough to hold? Invite the rational middle to critique the ladders and templates. Ethical power enjoys scrutiny because it was built for the group, not for your image. From my subjective opinion, any standard that cannot survive a good faith red team is either premature or performative. Retire it or refine it. Be relentless about freshness. Stale process becomes theater, and theater invites disrespect. Keep your artifacts alive, versioned, dated, trimmed. When you retire a rule, say so publicly and say why. When you add one, attach the story it solves. We lost 90 minutes relitigating a lock decision. The decision lock line saved that time twice this sprint. Ethics needs receipts. Receipts need rhythm. Thread kindness through cadence. The point of all this is not to win at work and lose at being human. Say please and thank you like a professional. Start on time, end 5 minutes early to give people a breath. Name the good before the gap. Ask, are you okay? After bruising calls. Praise with specificity so people know what to repeat. These aren't soft touches. They are stability signals. They make high standards livable. They make your predictability feel like safety, not surveillance. Protect truth early. The ethical Machiavellian never allows truth to wither in the shade of comfort. You surface risks in public, route them to the register, and invite mitigation. You celebrate the person who spots the crack before it becomes a chasm. That reward function is moral. It keeps the group safe, the budget intact, and the mission honest. And when you're wrong, you say so quickly, ship the repair and reinstate the rail. Fast correction is the purest form of respect for the team's time, for the client's trust, for your own standard. Finally, examine your motive hygiene. If your rails are secretly about making yourself indispensable, you've drifted. The ethical test is simple. Do my systems work without me? If the answer is yes, you're building a culture. If the answer is no, you're building dependence, a fragile throne on a shaky hill. Build the former, teach the method, distribute facilitation, publish the playbook. Make yourself expensive to disrespect by making everyone powerful enough to protect the standard. Here's the quiet revolution you trigger when you do this well. Rooms calm down. People stop bracing for whiplash. The shy speak up because the rails hold them. The loud learn to love receipts because receipts protect them. Meetings shorten, deliverables sharpen, and the word Machiavellian starts to feel less like a sneer and more like a blueprint. Govern incentives, reduce surprise, route heat to structure, and choose predictable goodness over charismatic chaos. From my subjective opinion, that is not manipulation, it is maturity. And it's the fastest route I know to a culture where respect is no longer begged for or battled over. It's baked in. The modern arena isn't a boardroom. It's a lattice of inboxes, calendars, docs, chats, dashboards, and tickets. Respect rises or falls on how you orchestrate that lattice. If your digital world is a pile of tabs and vibes, you've surrendered the initiative before the first word leaves your mouth. But if your tools sing in time, if your email, docs, and trackers beat like one metronome, people experience you as inevitable. They stop arguing with your presence because your receipts and rhythm argue for you. Personally, I feel this is where most ambition leaks. Not in ideas, but in the invisible slop of chaotic workflows that make even brilliant people look unreliable. Start with naming as governance. Sloppy names are attacks on every future minute. Adopt a grammar that turns search into certainty. For documents, use a prefix stack like decision, YYYMMDD, topic, or brief client V3. For meetings, title them with outcomes. Decide, launch offer B versus C. For notes, encode, context, retro, friction, log, 2025-0924. When everything is named like it wants to be found, you won't need to defend yourself. Your archive will do it. From my subjective opinion, consistent naming is the cheapest reputation insurance you'll ever buy. Engineer email as a decision engine, not a complaint box. Subject lines carry weight. Make them carry meaning. Use tokens like decision, info, risk, action at the front. Open with a one-line outcome statement. Outcome, approve. Option B for Q4. See trade-offs below. Then 3 bullets. Why this? Risks. Owner divided by date. Close with objections by Thursday, 3 p.m. Silence equals consent. You've just turned a passive thread into a time-bound decision pipeline. Delay send to daylight hours, batch replies twice daily, and route anything heated to a decision doc where emotions go to cool against structure. Make threads. Obey gravity. One decision, one thread. If a topic forks, spawn a new thread with a title that tells the future and link back to the parent. In chat, collapse noise into threads and refuse to litigate scope in DMs. Please use the intake form so owner and due date are clear. A bot reply with the form link saves your adrenaline for real work. Disrespect loves back channels. Threads starve it by putting memory where everyone can see. Convert fog into templates that think. The only difference between a chaotic org and a composed one is a set of living templates. Decision docs, options trade-offs, risk rec owner, date, risk registers, trigger impact, mitigation watcher, recaps decision owners' dates, next lock line, and briefs audience, problem promise proof plan. Paste these skeletons everywhere, meeting invites, kickoff emails, docs. The template becomes the table becomes the culture. Upgrade your calendar from a museum of meetings to a map of priorities. Color code by function. Deep work. Decisions. 1 second. Reviews. Block daily focus corridors and guard them like revenue. Attach pre-reads to every meeting at least 24 hours in advance. Cancel rooms that ignore that law. End 5 minutes early and allocate the last minute to reading the decision back. Add a private aftercare slot after contentious meetings, a literal calendar buffer to exhale, document, and reset your nervous system. The world will read your calendar as your constitution. Make it legible and strict. Institute doc hygiene as a social contract. Every decision doc needs an owner, version, and last updated timestamp. Top banner. Purpose, decision needed, deadline. Comments resolve or are promoted to risks. They never rot. Use suggestion mode by default. When a decision locks, freeze the doc and paste the lock line in the recap. Decision B. Reopen requires owner plus new data. In any niche, argument decays quickly when it must put on shoes. Evidence, dates, owners. Centralize truth with a single source hub. Think airport signage, not poetry. Decisions, runbooks, SLAs, templates, roadmaps, risks, FAQs. Link to it in your email signature and meeting invites. Start calls by pointing to the hub, not your charisma. Decision doc is here. Risks are logged here. Recap lands in divided by decisions by 4 p.m. People relax when their memory strain goes down. Respect rises because your OS cares for their cognition. Measure what matters with dashboard rituals. Weekly decision digest. What locked? Who owns? By when? What changed? Sprint scorecard. Planned versus shipped. Top 3 risks. Blocks removed. Meeting runtime trend. Average minutes. Percent with pre-reads. Reopen rate. These are not vanity graphs. They are behavioral gravity. When the room sees that agendas cut runtime 22% and lock lines reduced, reopens by half, objections to process evaporate. You're not winning a debate, your data is. Automate the boring parts of being excellent. Macros that insert recap skeletons. Email filters that label by token. Calendar automations that attach templates to recurring sessions. A cool-off shortcut that drafts, noted moving to doc, reply by 3 p.m., a bot that reminds attach owner divided by date when someone posts an unbounded ask. Automation isn't cold, it's kind to your future attention. Personally, I feel every automation is a boundary you won't have to perform with your voice. Defend your versioning honor. Nothing erodes credibility like mystery changes. Adopt a light Git for docs. V0, 1 draft. V0, 9 review. V1, 0 locked. Change logs live at the top. What changed, why, who signed. Archive stale versions. Link forward. When you cultivate traceability, you cultivate trust. No one has to wonder. Everyone can verify. Create status surfaces that remove the need for pings. A living Kanban or tracker where owner's states and due dates are visible kills the any update drip. Pair it with commentary rules. Status belongs on the card, not in Slack. Decisions linked to divided by decisions. Risks move to the register. You're funneling energy to places where it compounds instead of evaporates. Install canned courage for hard moments. 3 pre-written, heart rate lowering lines. 1. We're hot 2-minute break. When we're back, we'll stick to the brief. 2. Let's route this to the options table. Live time is for choosing. 3. I'll finish this point, then I'll take yours. Having them at your fingertips prevents your amygdala from freelancing. Words that are ready beat feelings that are raw. Publish response SLAs you can keep, then keep them religiously. Non-blocking messages same day. Decisions with dollars 24-48 hours. Urgent equals call. Put it in your ways of working. When expectations are explicit, your calm becomes plausible. Surprises go down, satisfaction goes up. Disrespect loses one of its favorite excuses, I didn't know. Finally, treat privacy and dignity as first-class citizens of your stack. Use permissions intentionally, open by default, private for performance reviews or sensitive negotiations. Turn recordings into notes. Don't weaponize raw video. Redact before sharing. The more safely your system handles humans, the more willingly humans will handle your system. The net effect of all this is subtle and massive. Your digital landscape starts doing social work. It protects attention, shortens meetings, and makes bad behavior expensive. It lets allies repeat your standards in your language because the language is printed on every surface. It builds a reputation you don't have to carry on your shoulders in every room because the room has been prearranged to carry it for you. From my subjective opinion, the quietest flex in 2025 isn't a witty clapback. It's a recap that lands at 3:59 with owners and dates every time for months. That's rhythm. And rhythm is respect. People can set their watches by. Respect isn't only earned by what you say, it's earned by what you see before you say it. Rooms talk long before mouths open. They talk in chairs and angles, in laptops half closed and pens that stop moving, in who interrupts whom and who never gets interrupted. If you want to make disrespect too expensive to spend, learn to read these currents like a pilot reads weather. Don't just enter a meeting, survey a landscape. Personally, I feel more influence is lost to missed signals than to bad sentences. When you misread the air, you default to the wrong tempo, the wrong tone, the wrong tool, and then you blame politics for what perception could have prevented. Start at the threshold scan. As you enter, clock the triangle of power. Who's seated nearest the decider? Whose chair faces the door? Who has the whiteboard marker? who place their notebook where everyone can see. Notice phones. Face down says present, face up says contingent. Look for coalitions, people whose body angles mirror, whose nods synchronize. These microsymmetries predict voting blocks more reliably than titles do. If you spot the quiet expert with a full page of notes and no laptop, mark 'em, data lives there. Your first decision isn't your first line, it's which gravity wells you'll honor with your gaze and the order you'll bring with your agenda. Read tempo tells. Fast breath, stacked sentences, overlapping talkers equals amygdala-led room. Slow exhale, turn-taking, pens moving equals prefrontal room. You will not convince an amygdala with a paragraph, you convince it with structure. Outcome is X, 2 options. I'll recommend, then take objections. You will not keep a prefrontal room with drama, you keep it with evidence. 3 data points, then trade-offs. From my subjective opinion, the bravest kindness you can offer a hot room is to slow your speech by 10% and add 1 beat of silence after each clause. Silence teaches hearts to follow your lungs. Watch micro-hierarchy moves. Who gets interrupted without apology? Who apologizes for speaking? Who answers their own question and scans the room for a savior? Who deflects credit upward versus downward? These are not personality quirks, they are status signals. If the decider routinely interrupts the same 2 people, you'll need to enforce 1 speaker rule and call on the overlooked by name. I want to hear Priya on the latency trade-off, then we'll go Sam. You're not rescuing, you're redistributing airtime to get the best decision and to train the culture that intellect beats volume. Study seating geometry, corners breed caution, edges empower flyby snipers, center seats invite facilitation. If you habitually sit where your influence can't travel behind a laptop wall, back row on mute, you've chosen the wrong topology for your goal. Hybrid rooms require camera choreography. Sit where your eyes align with the lens. Raise your screen so your face is lit. Nudge the facilitator to rotate questions to remote attendees first. Disrespect often hides in hybrid. The side conversation in the physical room that forgets the grid of faces. Fix it with ritual. Remote first on risks. In-room second. Equality isn't a feeling, it's a sequence. Calibrate to energy curves. Every meeting has a rise, a wobble, and a drop. The rise wants framing, the wobble wants containment, the drop wants a decision. If you drop a grenade, new risk. At minute 55, you've just guaranteed a reopening tomorrow. Instead, surface risk by minute 20 and route it to the register with owner plus mitigation. When you sense fatigue, eyes glazing, hands leaving, keyboards compress, we're choosing B unless there's new data. Objections? If the room is electric and veering towards spectacle, anchor. We're hot, 2-minute water break. Back on brief when we return. You're not policing feelings. You're protecting outcomes. Decode, linguistic tells. Absolutes always, never mean threat detection is high time to ask for specifics. Which instance? What changed? Passive voice. Mistakes were made means accountability is fleeing. Pin it gently. Owner and date. Future faking way should consider. Is a stall convert to a task? Log option C. Owner drafts trade-offs by Thursday. Jargon spikes often signal status theater. Break it with a simple rephrase. In plain language, are we saying speed beats reliability this quarter? Plain English is a rescue rope in a room drowning in poetry. Manage eyeline economics. Staring down a disruptor turns the meeting into a duel. Instead, lock eyes with the neutral majority as you install rails. 1 speaker at a time. The majority wants relief. Give it to them, and they will reinforce your standard. When you must correct someone, decouple identity from behavior with a process label. We're off process. Then return your gaze to the work, not the offender. Where your eyes rest, culture grows. Account for cultural context. Not every room telegraphs respect the same way. In some cultures, cutting in is passion. In others, it's a breach. Some reward speed, others reward thoroughness. If you're the guest, adopt host humility. Ask for norms up front. How do you prefer to decide, debate, live, or write and read? And mirror the tempo until you've earned the right to tune it. Respect is easier to receive when you've shown respect for the local music before conducting your own. For virtual rooms, read the grid. Cameras off en masse. Could be fatigue, could be fear. Ask for minimal presence signals instead of policing faces. Drop a when you've read the option, if you want to speak, if blocked. Use the chat as a second lane for the conflict averse. Summarize out loud so typed perspectives become part of the shared memory. If the chat turns into a shadow debate, surface it. I'm seeing a thread. Let's move that into the doc under risks so it doesn't split the room. You're integrating, not ignoring. Run the 4 senses. Sweep every 10 minutes. Sight posture, pens, faces, sound overlaps, size, silence density, sense pace, emotional temperature. Structure, are we still on the agenda rails? If any of the 4 goes red, you intervene with one of 3 tools. Frame, outcome is X. Container, 2 options, 1 choice. Clock, we have 8 minutes. Decide or defer with owner divided by date. From my subjective opinion, these 3 moves rescue more meetings than any charismatic monologue ever will. Notice face-saving cues. Someone who blundered may over-contribute to compensate. Offer a soft landing. Good catch on X earlier. Can you sanity check the risk table? You've just recycled ego energy into useful labor. Someone who was ignored may withdraw. Call them in with a bounded ask, not a spotlight. Aisha, 1 sentence. Would be break analytics. Boundaries make participation safe, which makes brilliance possible. Build pre-reads as empathy. If a room habitually spirals, it's starving for context. Send the options table 24 hours early. Open with 10 silent minutes to read. Reading equalizes eloquence gaps and gives introverts a fair lane. Hot rooms cool when reading time becomes ritual because facts regain gravity. Finally, listen for the thing you can't hear, the decision that didn't happen. Meetings end with good discussion because nobody landed the plane. Read the room's relief when you say, we're choosing B. Owners, Anna, Dev, Do, Friday, 3 p.m. Decision lock and recap. Open risks are #2 and #4. Relief is respect in its first stage. It says, thank you for carrying us from noise to choice. Do that reliably, and the room will start arriving pre-aligned to your cadence. They'll speak your boundary sentences before you do. They'll look to you not for domination, but for definition. And that is the essence of reading a room like a pro. Not mind control, not theatrics, just a trained eye, a steady breath, and the will to serve the work so well that respect becomes the room's default setting, not a prize you have to beg for. There's a ceiling to solo excellence. You can hold frame, control tempo, wield boundary sentences like a scalpel, but if the culture around you doesn't learn the method, you'll spend your life playing bouncer instead of builder. Real power is what happens when other people enforce your standards for you, not out of fear, but out of relief. They've tasted what it feels like to work inside clarity, and they're not going back. Personally, I feel this is the quiet graduation point in any career, when your presence is no longer required for your principles to persist. Begin with a mindset shift. From performance to pedagogy. Every reset you deliver, every clean recap you ship, every terrain shift you execute is a lesson. Make it legible. Narrate the why in 1 sentence as you act. We're moving to a decision, Doc, because live time is for choosing, not drafting. You didn't sermonize, you instrumented a principle. People remember lines that saved them time. Over weeks, your shorthand becomes folklore. The team repeats when you're not there. Install micro-apprenticeships. Pick 2 emerging operators, the rational middle with coachable posture, and put them on the console. Give them the agenda, the 1-speaker rule, the later lot, the decision lock line. Sit 1 seat back and let them hold the frame while you hold the piece. After the meeting, debrief in 6 bullets. What worked? What wobbled? Where heat spiked? Which sentence saved? What to try next? Where I'll backstop you. From my subjective opinion, 5 such reps turn a promising contributor into a culture capacitor who carries voltage into other rooms. Codify the method as tiny tools, not tenets. A 10-page culture deck gathers dust. A 1-page facilitator card lives in pockets. Open. Outcome issues in order, decision needed. Rules. 1 speaker, remote first rotation, later lot for tangents. Moves. Frame options. Decide recap. Lines. We're hot 2-minute break. Which requirement is unmet? Reopen requires owner plus new data. Hand it out. Run a 5-minute drill before meetings. These are not slogans, they're muscle cues. Create shadow roles in live sessions. Someone time keeps, someone watches for interruptions, someone tends the risk register, someone owns the recap. Rotate weekly. When people experience how much easier a room runs with these roles, they stop romanticizing organic conversation and start requesting structure as a service. Disrespect withers where roles are visible because opportunism hates bright light. Host a 30-minute OS walkthrough for newcomers. Not Values Theater, an operational tour where decisions live. How to propose options, how we reopen, how we escalate, what urgent means, what owner means. Include 2 micro stories. Before the lock line, we lost 90 minutes weekly. Now we don't. Humans remember stories of saved pain. Hook them early, and you won't have to police late. Practice status generosity as a teaching tool. Publicly credit those who use the rails well. Shout out to Dan for moving hot debate into the options table. Saved us 15. When you spotlight compliance tied to concrete benefit, you reward outcome-shaped behavior, not personality theater. Over time, recognition bends incentives more reliably than reprimands. Build templates with training wheels. Your decision doc can carry hints in gray text. Option A, write in simple language. List trade-offs in bullets. Your recaps can auto-insert decision lock copy. Your intake form can require owner and date. You're reducing room for slop so people's best selves have the shortest path to execution. Tools that teach are kinder than talks that scold. Run brown bag clinics on the hardest moves. De-escalation, interrupting the interrupter, converting attacks into tasks. Role play 3-minute scenarios. Script the first sentence, the rescue sentence, the close. The point isn't theatrics, it's nervous system rehearsal. Under heat, no one invents clean lines, they default to what they've practiced. Give the team defaults that dignify. Institutionalize red teams for your own rails. Once a month, ask 3 operators to try to break the system. Where do our rules stall speed? Where did a template become a hostage taker? What exception clause do we need for true emergencies? Then publish the tweaks. When your standards show they can survive scrutiny and evolve, the culture trusts them and trusts scales enforcement. Use coaching moments in the wild. When someone reopens a locked decision, don't just reassert. Teach. We lock to protect throughput. Reopen needs new data and the owner. It's how we ship. When someone escalates sloppily, route them and explain the cost. DMs create memory leaks. The intake form gives us owners and dates. Every correction is a 2-sentence class. Avoid the twin toxins. Cynicism and cult. Cynicism says process never works and uses that story to justify chaos. Cult says process is sacred and uses that story to ignore reality. Steer the middle. Process is a tool we trim monthly to fit the work. Retire rituals that no longer save time. Keep the spine decision docs, recaps, lock lines, risk registers because they're the arteries. Everything else is clothing. Change with the weather. Track and tell compounding wins. A tiny slide in the weekly. Meeting runtime down 19%. Reopen rate halved. On-time delivery up 4 sprints running. Attach 1 sentence. Credit to the facilitation rotation plus decision lock line. Numbers turn your method from preference to profit function. People don't argue with fewer 7 p.m. rework sessions. Coach face-saving discipline. Teach lease a separate identity from behavior. Timestamp. Name the standard. State the next step. Ban kitchen sink critiques. No always divided by never. No psychoanalysis. Behavior. Rail. Consequence. Delivered like weather. Kindness without mush. Enforcement without theater. The more leaders master this tone, the more the culture self-corrects. Mentor, meta-leaders, people who coach coaches. Give them the playbook for spinning up a new pod. Week 1 OS tour. Facilitator card. Decision hub. SLA norms. Red team calendar. Equip them to export the culture without exporting you. When pods carry rails with them, your influence outruns your calendar. Mind succession in micro. Before you go on leave, appoint a standard bearer, not a stand-in. Hand them the hub, the ladders, the macros, the allies list. Tell the team, standards are the boss, Alex is the metronome, then leave. Nothing proves a culture like the week the founder isn't there, and nothing earns you more respect than returning to a system that kept singing. Finally, keep your teacher's heart. Correction delivered with contempt breeds compliance without commitment. Correction delivered with care breeds loyalty. Say the lines that carry both. We will not miss the standard, and I will help you hit it. We choose B today, and if A proves itself with new data, we'll pivot without shame. Personally, I feel the most magnetic leaders radiate this paradox. Unshakable rails, unmistakable regard. People don't just obey them, they become them. Teach the method, share the rails, rotate the metronome, Tell the stories, trim the rules, praise the saves. When your culture can run the play without you on the field, disrespect runs out of air. The room itself becomes your ally, the walls speak your sentences, the docs echo your cadence, the calendars keep your promises. That's scale. That's legacy. And that's how respect stops being your nightly fight and becomes everyone's daily reflex. Across these sections, you learned a complete operating system for earning and keeping respect without theatrics. Diagnose disrespect as data, own the frame and tempo, deploy clean boundary sentences, and make yourself expensive to disrespect through competence, documentation, and cadence. You move conflict from vibe to verifiable with terrain shifts, private correction plus public standards, and language that turns heat into structure. You built allies, not audience, repaired quickly after slips, raised your self-respect ceiling with rituals and rails, and practiced strategic non-engagement so bait dies without oxygen. You converted friction into frameworks, decision docs, lock lines, risk registers, ran a 30-day reset to make standards muscle, chose ethical Machiavellian predictability over charisma, and leveraged digital receipts and rhythm so your systems speak for you. Finally, you learned to read rooms like a pro and coach the culture so the method scales beyond you. Net, less drama, more outcomes. Respect becomes a byproduct of clarity, consistency, and consequence. This week, install the minimum viable rails. 1. Publish a one-page, ways of working channels, SLAs, decision format, escalation ladder. 2. Use a decision doc for any choice touching money, timeline, or brand. Options, trade-offs, risks, recommendation, owner date. 3. End every meeting with a recap decision, owners, dates, risks, lock line. Sent the same day. 4. Practice 3 boundary sentences aloud until automatic. We're off agenda, back to item 3. One speaker at a time. Consolidate questions in one thread. I'll reply at 3 p.m. 5. Start the 30-day reset. 2 reply windows, divided by day, pre-reads 24 hours prior, a weekly decision digest, and a friction ledger to convert stings into systems. Lead with calm, enforce with predictability, and let your rhythm do the talking. Start today, ship 1 doc, send 1 recap, speak 1 boundary. Momentum beats perfection.